I heard some sharing from some folks already. So and yeah. So anything else? I was gonna say sometimes your brain just not working as at the regular pace, and you might get stuck on the same thing for a few hours. All of that is okay.
I had another thing which was like I got stuck looking at like between looking at your code and trying to write my own. And then I was stuck in this place because like I was looking at your code and okay, I'm seeing how you're implementing it, but then I don't want to copy your code because that's like not the point. And then I was like kind of running it myself, but also trying to copy yours, and I was like not clear what I wanted to do, I think, and I was just like mixing all like a little bit of mine, a little bit of yours, and it just went nowhere. It was
Gotcha.
So I think that's probably just a skill that I have to develop of like being able to maybe look at your code, just get the general idea, and then leave it behind, and then write my own instead of like. How did he do it? What did he call that class?
Okay, so are you talking about the starter code?
No, not the starter.
Right?
I'm talking about the final one. So I was inspecting it.
I see. Yeah.
And that messed with my head.
Right.
Like,
good point there. Okay. Did you guys understand that sharing?
Yeah.
So there's.
It's better than you go. That's I don't know.
Yeah, but can you guys be clear about there is a starter code, right, and the final product, right? So the starter code that we had is the what you have to start with, basically, and so. If you look at the existing code in this starter code, it should be more like, oh, I'm going to follow the same style, keep things consistent, that kind of thing. Or you can improve it, how you look at my item.rb, and you can say, okay, I can fix the list.rb file to use self-dot, and to be more consistent, for example. That's an example. Final product. Here's the interesting part, because it gives you this BR1 homework3 herokuapp.com. It gives you the final look of what's expected. Let's say if you implement everything correctly, it should work this way. So what Oscar was saying, let's say how does he do that form, right? Go and inspect the HTML and stuff. So it's very interesting, because if you look at Trello and try to imitate from Trello, you will see that there are so many classes, and it will be very complicated. And you're like, that's fine. I just get an idea. I'm going to do it my way. Right? So that's what I did. And so I didn't feel very bothered, because you know that you're going to build out something very different anyway. Right? So in your case, it's true. Anyone may fall into the same thing. So same trap will be, this is very close to what I'm going to build. And I will succeed if I build something similar, exactly similar. So I may want to force myself to follow some of what I see. So that's when there's a bit of a tension. It's like, should I do it my way or not? Yeah, I can definitely see that. So Louis, your point is, were you talking about the starter code or the final product?
The final product.
Also, so it's similar?
I start doing my code on the final product. At the end, I don't know if I follow the same logic of the final product or my product.
Yeah. Okay, so this is very good. Basically, I think as we become more aware of our learning, we choose the approach that's best for us. In general, right, we do want to be able to just make something work. And then you know you can improve it later. So work on one thing at a time. So if your goal is to be able to submit a form, just focusing on that first. So break down into small steps, right? And then if you can make it work, you're confident that you can drive your code to be as clean as, say, my code. Of course, it could be cleaner. You can even make it cleaner afterwards. But definitely not trying to be clean at the same time as like, he only used 2 class names. I'm using 4. Maybe that's not good. Or like, he's using 4 class names, very clear and specific. I'm only using 2. I'm using too many things into one place.
That's exactly what I did. Like, I looked at like your like new form CSS, and I was like, oh, okay, there's hover, there's the pointer, there's hidden transparent forms, there's like you only use like one single JavaScript line to do the whole toggle classes thing.
Okay.
So because you're adding a class to the like parent of the thing, and I just got like so lost in that instead of just focusing on like, all right, let me just add one simple thing, and even if I have to use 3-4 classes, like figure it out my way.
Right.
And
Okay.
later, like if I'm done, I can like play around with it.
Yeah.
But that was a mistake.
I mean, we understand Oscar's point there, right? And it happens to all of us. Did you hear what Oscar said? I saw you busy writing stuff. So, the Fu and Ian, do you guys have anything to comment on that? Yeah. Okay. So it's funny, right? That sometimes seeing it can be misleading. So you're saying it's only half of the story. So we understand that it's only half of the story, right? You guys can see anything that is CSS, HTML, JavaScript, but you don't see the Ruby part. Yeah. Squee, do you have anything to comment on? Now, first, I have to request that you guys really pay attention in this session. Don't try to review homework, right? Doing other things, really. This is not a fast-paced lecture. This is a discussion. I'm moderating the discussion. So I want people to give me points to talk about. The only reason that you should not pay attention is that you don't understand, English, and that's the only reason. And that's okay. If, for example, Ian said like, hey, a lot of things that I would digest it differently. I accept that. But if you fully understand English and you just don't pay attention, I really think that it's a critical missing point. So back to this one. At this time, you guys have been into the program for 3 weeks, and you guys are actually equipped enough with the very basics to go and troubleshoot things. So I'm moving the class in the direction of troubleshooting. So the previous approach may work for some, it may not work for others. The thing that you follow the lab, you type the same thing, see if it works, type something else, see if it works and stuff. It's a lot of hand-holding. But when we hand-hold enough, repeat enough, you now feel like at least you know how to look into anything now. And now you can ask questions about that. What is really trapping us is the approach. And this is very normal. And a lot of us will fall into this trap for the next 10 weeks. I mean, for some people, for the next 10 years. So if you guys really want to be productive, use this kind of discussion to say, hey, as someone who has been programming for 20 years, what are the things you wish you you knew 10 years ago? And these are the things I want to tell you guys, but I cannot, if we're not using it as a discussion. So, for example, when you work on these things, don't really try to, do everything. Don't try to understand everything. From now on, you will work with stuff you don't understand. And you're lucky that, for example, my starter code is not disgusting. But in real life, when you have a deadline, you download this library that's 4 years old, but it does almost what you need. You just need to tweak a little more things. Do you really, go in and really try to understand everything that they do so you can fix for them? No, you just focus on what you need to get done and troubleshoot when anything doesn't work the right way. Yeah. The way we build app is that we build the most commonly used features. We're not building a system that fly to Mars. That can a thousand things can happen. We're building application that if the user hit an error, they tell us to fix the next day, right? That's how we get better. So we chill. Like I don't mind if my thing, some part is not done, or there's a bug with it. So be very comfortable with that. Okay. Yeah, it's completely welcome. And oh shoot, I have a important call. So it's completely welcome. And because this starter code technically, I'm not introducing anything crazy different. So I want you to be in control of this code. Make it yours. That's the extra time that you need. I give this code. One person A can decide that, okay, things work as expected. I will focus on the new features. Some people will do that. Some people will focus on customizing it to understand it better. That's okay. Good. Are we okay going in here? Okay. So I'll just follow with this question. I'll try to follow everyone's question so we all can learn from this one. So Ian asked, I have this load from file, but it's not enough. Okay? Good. So take an example here. The easiest way I recommend is don't go and directly modify something that is already working. So you can say load from file and it's doing exactly what you need with load from file unless you change something else. So you can copy it, right? And once you feel comfortable, you can delete the other ones. So there are two things. If you smart load from file, for example, if you think that you need a different approach, okay, you ask yourself two scenarios. One, can you use my load from file and then you do something else on top of it? If you use that, then you know at least this part works because a lot of us use it. I tested it, it works. And then you can add some more things. Maybe you load more lines. That's one way. The other way is like I am doing something similar, but I will read the file differently, right? For example, I don't know, here, instead of this name being the first line, I want name to be the last line, right? In the case, this is name the first line here, then I want it to be the last line. Then you just decide that this will be, instead of shift, you just pop, and then you change your code. And you can do it in a way that it's like clear to you, and you know that this will be, now I can name something like load from file with name at the bottom or something like that. That comment, right? I like my name, this name, to be at the bottom, right? Like something like that. Now, sometimes what you want to do is not inside this load from file. Actually, you realize that this load from file, what does it do? It just read one line at a time with the first line to be the list. But the way you want to change, you may want to change like this. You're like, I don't like these things. All right? Let's say you do that. You're not going to change my load from file. You actually go into this line, understand it, and you're going to change this new from line. And you go into this and you see that, oh, okay, if I remove the first 3 characters, so everything becomes 2 characters forward. So then I just change this file. Make sure you can test this one. Right? Technically, I should be very clear here. It convert, right? Parse. Here is like that, right? Into item dot new item with property like name, buy milk, status done. For example, there are many ways to write these comments to help communicate to yourself and to others. I should have written it here for those who go through my code to see, oh, okay, it's very clear. Because if I don't write this, guys, like even I come back next week or next year, I forget everything. So. Does that answer your question about running? So change one thing at a time. If you want to change the way list behaves, really look into it and say, what do I want to change? And then you want to try keep the old version and the new version and decide what you like. Are you really just changing, the way you call this, right? Instead of new from line, you may want to say new something else. I don't know. Or for example, you say load from files. I want to load multiple lists. Then you want to say maybe load lists from file. And then you may move, you go actually read it one at a time. And then you make refactor. This method here is like load items. I don't know. And then you reuse them. So structure it, but really don't change too many things at the same time. That's, again, that probably will help. Okay, so anyone else has interesting? I do have some comments on quiz. That's also very good. Just sharing there. So maybe I'll get to that. So can you share what you just said just now one more time about like? Okay. So was it in starter code or final product? Okay, good. So you're talking about the starter code, right? Now, for example, I asked the final product. So what Oscar say, let's say Oscar or someone very similar, they could go to this link and they will be like, before I do this, I'm going to really see all the forms that he does. All right, why is he submitting this, and try to get an understanding of all of this and all this class name with JavaScript. Don't do that, because that's just a lot of information, right? And you don't get satisfaction quickly. You want to see, okay, for example, how does it work as a final product? It's a black box. So maybe, okay, the field that, okay, he click on here, it pops this item, and you type something, it submit this way. I want the same behavior, I focus on that. That's it, right? So this is when you're working to build new features. Please say, I look at your starter code and I want to understand almost everything. Okay, you should only do this in this case because the starter code is small enough. You have learned everything in this starter code, so you should be able to understand it without spending days. And the third one is that I did encourage it in the lab. I say spend the first milestone, talk to your partner, make sure you can understand as much as possible from this one. So there's already a guide. And I wrote here, these are the files you need to care about. So if the list and the minimum, I expect everyone to be able to go and check these things, look at, and then ask yourself these questions, okay? If you still feel like, I'm not sure, be very careful, okay? Don't spend forever on just looking at this code and not work on anything. One danger is like, well, how does all these HTML classes, get used? Or like, wait, I have this, he has this JavaScript thing, and it's like, I don't understand any of this. At this point, you don't have to understand to build things. You have to learn how to troubleshoot. You do not have to understand why the hell is it like this thing here. It will come to you as you troubleshoot. I cannot teach everything anymore. You will basically rely on console.log to know when something gets run, and then you know what argument it is, and then you can do within that argument. That's how a lot of people build so many websites just using jQuery libraries. They don't understand shit. They just put the library in and they just like, okay, I want to fade it out, I want to shake it, I want to turn it into this and that. So we have to be very flexible. What's our goal? to finish your assignment with something interesting to use. I also say make it beautiful enough. Don't make it too ugly. So finish your assignment means you need to go and look at those checkboxes. And then if you're spending the whole day, you're not really improving the checkbox, take a step back and see, I want to get more checkboxes out of the way. Right? So if we look at the lab one very quickly here, it's just with this one. I say it here is like it's pretty much about planning now, right? Because so for example, if you are writing as you're working on just looking at the source code and make sure you feel comfortable, I want you to write down what you are trying to understand from the source code. So you were able to tell me that, hey, I want to look at the list.rb. I want to understand everything about it. That is a very clear learning point. Then how do you do it? I actually encourage that, right? Look at that, and then there's all these things that you can try to understand all the methods in it. And you can add to it. If you can, recommend me, hey, there's something else you did not explain. You did not explain how toggle item work. I want to understand this, right? But when you are doing this, don't go and do other things, like one task at a time. And you feel like I'm very good with the item.rb now, I'm very good at list.rb now, you move on. And if you just have enough, then you should start adding your features. So yesterday I said, hey guys, afternoon, what features should you build? This feature, submit a list. It means you should just look at how a form is submitted, how a form is built, and that's it. We used the day before, we know how to float each of these to the left, add a little margin here, and then there's a form here. We even know how to click here and hit cancel. Good. So now add a form saying, path, action, hit submit and see what happens. So I add, I will say, okay, what did Harley do with the form URL? Okay, let's see. That's the only thing you should check. Be like, okay, it's going to, where is it? Action list. That's weird. Like, you can ask questions. Why is it called action list? Does anyone have that question? Then it's very specific question, but it's very clear that what he's trying to do is he's trying to get this form to post to list. And if someone asks this question, I will explain that in the web, this is very common when you post to this URL. This is to create a resource, an item, right? When you do get list, it is to receive all resources. We call resources, but for any word. So you go to the internet, you see this a lot. /photos, get photos to do that. And then you will learn more like, list dot, say ID 123, this to show one resource, right? To display that one. Get list, let's say there's also a delete, for example, that we haven't learned is that's deleting a resource. But little things, if I tell you all of this now, it's meaningless. But also, this is the kind of thing that only come up if we discuss. There's no need to teach everything. Right? So as an example, if someone is stuck, what the next step is, implement the HTML page, right? And try to submit. And then you get in here, the first thing you do here is what? Params.toS, just print it out to the screen, or you call the debug params. And then you say, ERB, I just print out the string, right? Not yet implemented, right? And if I do this, I press submit here, it will take me to a page that say not yet implemented. And I can see in the log that, these are the params that get submitted. Then now I can handle the params. So you can do that one step at a time. And in here, what's the params? For example, here, right? Can someone guess what the params is? That's the list name. So then you just okay, for something I'm gonna be able to just use list name. And I know my specific task is I have to be able to create a new list. Something like, okay, maybe I do list.new, and then somehow list.name is list name. Oh shit, now I have to save it, and I don't know how. right? Actually, how do we do that? This is the hard part of the form. Has anyone thought about this one? What does save do? I already implemented save.
Stores your information.
Yeah, it save does the nice thing of the first item in the list is name, the rest is the item, and then save it. The problem is it's saving to, every time it's saving to the same file. So you want to save it to a different file. And you discover that the file name has to be like this, then you just see, you only need to understand enough to follow here. So in here you're like, okay, what if I try a different ID? Okay? And then you hit save. Then you will get a 1.md and then things seem to work. So that's the second list. So you finish creating the list. So at that point, don't worry. Oh shit, but the home page, if I load now, I don't see all the lists. This is a big problem. No, just finish that. I can create the list. I check here, it works. The next step, you're like, okay, my next, I go and mark that the item is done. Able to create a list. And go, maybe I add another item. So I go to the home page, I can see all the list. Okay? You add that as an item in your to-do, and then let's look at that. You see the home page, I only load one item. Only one item. Then now you have to be able to create something that can handle multiple items. And what's the simplest way we can learn from this? The simplest step to load both 0.md and 1.md. Can someone give me an idea? Huh? Change the variable, right? So for example, here will be list 1, list 2. Don't be afraid to write extremely stupid code like this. There's nothing wrong. And we know, by the way, ID can be a number or not, so maybe this is fine. Maybe keep it as a string, huh? And then load from file. And then now instead though, you realize that you want the whole thing to be a list, like list 1 and list 2, and this should be a list. Does that make sense? Then the index page is now simple. You know how to display one list? Just do a list.each. And everything here will be inside. Now everything automatically works. That's it. Then you've done the second task. Now this part, if it's still unclear, you can go back and watch the video. And you can even move this file, it's one list, to list.erb. This one, share, list.html.erb, and then you just call erb on this line, and your index file become 4 lines of code.
I want to ask at the beginning, you have general strategy.
A general strategy for this. At this stage, we should not come up with too many plans. We should, for example, we have to be agile really. Before you build this app, did you think you're going to name your files as 0.md, 1.md? I did not. But I realized that as I build it, I realized that if I name my list as todo.md, today.md, done.md, trash.md, archive.md, it becomes difficult to sort them. Right? How do I remember what order to sort? Right? It becomes difficult to deal with. Did you see the emoji in the thing? To deal with emoji in your, like, people enter stupid code, Unicode code, your user enter all these crazy things, and you use that to store as your file name, and you're in trouble. So I stopped using the two. It used to be just one thing, this will be your list name, and then you just display it. Very nice, very convenient. Except it doesn't work, but did I think of that before I started? No need. Did I think of how to display many lists when I start? Not really. I just built one list. And when I need, I implemented this and it works. Right? You can check that. But you want to do better than this, right? Yeah. Just the final step. So hold on to that question. After you verify that it works for 2 lists, you see how I'm not trying to make it work for 10 lists and everything at once. 2 lists and manual lists. You create it yourself. You can display them. Then what is the next step to make this complete? Can someone guess?
Dynamic, you want the names,
Yeah.
IDs.
So what if you can have a method called list equals list.loadAll, and then all of this line disappear. There's no need. That's it. This will be all the lists you want. And you implement this method. And if you implement this method, would you know how to implement it? By the way, I do it here so that I now can go to the terminal, require relative, list, and I type list.loadAll, and I should be able to see my list. That is how you test with confidence. Not put in here and just go and refresh the browser every time, and sometimes something else is wrong. Your variable in ERB is wrong. You know, it's too many steps. I want to make sure my list.loadAll works. Okay? But sometimes this will happen to you. Wow, that's something really new. I've not implemented something like that before. No problem. So first, it's like I call it list.loadAll. So it's already something weird going on. I don't call list.new. Because it's not about one object. I want to return an array of objects. So you actually learn that, okay, so how do you write that kind of method? Then you first, this is a class method. When you call list.loadAll, there's only one, this method is for the class. I can put this logic in this list. Of course, I can put this method anywhere. But it's nice to put in the same list.rb file, so I put it in the class. Okay? So then I should be able to return list 1 and list 2. Something like that as an array. You see how I just choose a very small thing and then I do it? If you maintain a to-do list, I say make sure list.loadAll will return an array, and you check that list, you'll feel satisfying. It's like finishing one task. And now if I do go now to require relative list, I will check that list.loadAll does what I expect there, right? Now technically then you could paste the previous one. I can't get the previous paste. This Vim version is bad. It was somewhere there, like the whole list1 equals to 0, list1.load, blah blah blah. You try that first and you display 2 lists and see what happens. So, you know, example, list here, list 1, list 2. I should name them list 0 and list 1. Okay, let's try this. And I want to return 2 lists, like this. Okay, so I really want to consolidate my understanding, and I guarantee with you guys that you have enough knowledge to just play with the code interactively this way. And you realize that, it sucks, I have to go into each one of them and I have to load from file. No problem, it's not too bad. Seems fine, right? Then you like, I have to make sure I return that list 0 again, no? But not each return the same array. So you're fine. Okay, let's try that. Let's really test that. Uh-oh. E dot. Yeah? Still clear, right? Now this start to get like, okay, this whole look too colorful and so it's so easy to test. Take this, okay, now I need a variable. I call it A or list, up to you. And I'm going to really test the first one. Alright, display or something like that. Actually, there's no display method. I did not implement that. That Ruby just come up with that by itself. I call it maybe, what is the items? What is the first list dot items, you know, map E dot display line. You can just see, okay, everything seems to work properly, right? That's the idea, that you have to give yourself smaller tasks so if you feel really good about it. You will feel frustrated if you go for a big task and you just don't have a checkpoint. In this case, I'll give myself I feel very good. Even I'm just showing you guys, I feel very good that like, hey, we achieved something, one step closer. And then if you write in English, sometimes you're stuck. I really, at this point, I'm stuck. I don't know how to do it. I'm like, okay, why? Well, in this case, I tell it it's 0 and 1. But I may have more than that. Okay, for example, like this. I'm going to create more file like this. And I make sure that it works. So, okay, I'm going to tell myself and my user and everyone, I only store everything is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? I'm not going to say like, hey, maybe this will be like ABC also work. Why so much work for yourself? Just number.md, that's the ID. Then great, I'm like, how do I load all of them? There must be some way. So then you write the English version, right? Check data folder for any files, but it's in any.md files, right? Yeah, load them. Okay, but then you're like, I have to load them with an ID. So if I see this data folder as like data.0md, data.1md, I start to see the pattern. That's how you load all. So then you Google Ruby list files, right? Or list directory. So Ruby list files. And then you say, oh, get names of all files from a folder. And that seems like what I need, exactly what I need. And from now on, Stack Overflow will teach you way more than I can teach you. So then you'll be, in this case, you just look at what the guys have here and then try it in your terminal. Again, get the satisfaction first. If I try this in the terminal, I will feel that I achieved something. If you go and do this in here and then you start to write like 10 lines of code and then you run, God help you, right? That will be like, you have to be very experienced in Ruby to write that really correct. So I'm like, I don't really understand this DI bullshit. Like I copy and paste, it returns nothing. Did you copy this and did you see that this returned nothing, right? Right here? So one more time, this is the IRB. But then it forces you to say, okay, I copy the paste, no error. It means Ruby understands this stuff. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try maybe just this. Oh, look at that. This is the star and it returned all the files that I have. So how do I display all the files in the data folder? Then you put the word data in here, no? And then if I put data, oh shit, it only gives the word data. What if about it go into the data thing? It only does that. Because it's trying to match files, so then you realize that, that's what the star is for. Yeah? So one step at a time, if you can define what's the next step that I'm doing. So in this case, I am able to list all the files just by trial and error. I just go to the internet, Ruby, do it. But please don't go and copy this code and go and really imagine how things work and then things don't work. It happens to all of us, by the way. So this comes with experience, and I hope that this experience helped you save, a lot of bad times. So I even go further. It comes with experience too. That if I do .md, you play with file before, ls star.md. Has anyone done that? Then you realize you can get the MD stuff, right? So if you add like a trash file in here, let's say, what if I have some I don't know, instruction.txt. Right? And I don't want to load this file. You could make your code to be that smart. It's really up to you. That part is not important. Focus on what's important. But in this case, for those who are curious, then if I do this star, you will see I have data instruction. If I do .md, it is very satisfying to be able to just, with 10 characters, it does exactly what you want. Give me the list of files in that data folder. Then how do I do next? You need to get the ID, right? That's all you need. Does anyone know how to get the ID from this list? Right? So now you come up with ideas, but again, it has to be a very small step. So, for example, Ian is saying, this is a file name and I can get the base name of that file name. So you can say Ruby get base name, okay? And then it will give you that syntax, right? So you can even get this right here, how to get a file name without an extension and how to get it without the path like data. That's one way to do it. Do you see this one? That's not bad, huh? This guy give you file.base name, blah, blah, blah. It's in API docs, I'm not sure. Okay, good, it's in Ruby. So you could try this, file.base name, and then let's say data 0 once again. Just give it something that I can test. Don't play with the previous one yet. 0.md, I get 0.md. Oh, it's not too bad, but I don't want the extension, etc. You can deal with it. Right? Sometimes I walk past and I say, actually that way is a little complicated, man. This one returns you 3 string. Just take the first string out. I say this is the first. How hard is it to get the 0? First dot split by the slash, you get 0.md. If you split again by, get the second element, and then you split again by the dot. Oops, type so much and then make it up. And you get the 0. So you could also do this. It's the same thing. Your file.base name is just doing that, by the way. It's just doing splitting by slash. But because you try little things, you realize that data something here returns a string, an array of string. So we are not afraid that I take this array and I convert it into an ID. Yeah? Some people get smarter like this. You see how dot last become that? If you do 2i, that just gives you the integer right away. So you just ignore all the numbers so that your code looks even cleaner, no? Yeah, something like that. So this is quite common. Take a file name and then you split by the slash. You get the last or the first. Usually you get the last. Sometimes you do it this way because it's very clear. Sometimes you use, I need to get the base name and I have to go and Google how to use that. Both ways work, up to you, okay? So now actually, you know how to get that file name already. Then just use each block, you can load all the files. Right? But I hope that this walkthrough provides us the confidence that one task, load file, in fact was one task, render all the lists, display all the lists, and then somehow I reduced to just load file first and load all first, and then inside load all, I reduce to how do I display the files. Try and really achieve that. And then I will map that into the different list objects. Okay? So if you know this already, then to implement this method, the one who knows Ruby really well just need 2 lines. You can make it into 2-3 lines. The one who are not that familiar, no problem. Then just do the normal dot each. The data here, and then dot each, and then you can start with a list like this. Return result, and then you do dot each here. Do whatever you want inside, and you return this list. Okay? So you convert a new list to be something. Blah blah blah. That's the ID, and then this. Put it in there. But this is something that you will keep doing and you feel comfortable as well. How to prepare a list to return to this method. Okay? So, sorry, it took me that long to explain, to continue on quiz question. Is that I need to look into this and really understand all this backend. And you have to decide at some point, you only have this much time to look into the code. I ask you for milestone 1, milestone B, and one day later, if you're still looking at this, something's wrong. I just don't want you to spend too much on the same thing. We move on and say, I need to look at a specific small task. Okay? And a lot of us in the first 2 weeks, a lot of us who get frustrated is pretty much is like, because I need to understand everything, or I need to look at this thing and really process one by one. sometimes it cannot be helped. You have to really try numbers, strings, array, hash, do .each a lot of times, use the for loop for JavaScript a lot of times. Do it, be patient. Spend like 5 hours practicing that. But after that, please don't worry so much anymore, right? You will forget how the .each work. It's okay. You now have to have the ability to only need to look up what you need, right? So if you see multiple class name, you can say, okay, I just focus on one thing right now. Yeah.
I mean, this is what I'm trying to say, man. Even Harley, who's 20 years of experience, he doesn't remember. He doesn't remember every single thing. You know, you just gotta be able to know what you need.
It's normal because when we learn, if we remember everything, that is like, it feels satisfying that I come away remembering it. For our app building, pretty much over time we're like, it's just about troubleshooting. Anything I can Google. Yeah.
You must not have to transfer the variable from the IRB, the ERB to the backend, right? This is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, there is always a time to remember. If you prepare for a job interview, the way we do it here helps you think aloud. You think out loud when you do the interview, with them. But there's another thing though, you do have to memorize a few algorithms. You practice it so until you can actually just write it on the board. There are purposes for this. If I do a quiz, right, to test how well you learn, I might prepare and then only ask you to fill in the blank. At that point, I'm saying to really check you understand things, I don't let you Google. But we don't have that quiz. And the one who do get the highest score in the quiz may not be the one who built the best app. So just different time. Your question on that, actually there's something I want to share with you guys, this technique. So these techniques just come as we talk about them. So Ian just said, I need to really know how to pass the variable into the view. Yeah, that's something I expect you to do. Like with 2, if you at this point you don't know how to create a app.rb that uses Sinatra to render a page, I will be very upset. And then which is fine, just please let me know so I can fix it, right? So I'll be like, oh, just create this, this file, app.rb file, and just this get thing, and then you can choose the HTML file name you want, But I'm explaining it again very quickly. You need first, any string will do, You have one web page. And second, by the way, it supports HTML, Then that's the second concept. I expect you guys to remember all of this. And then, actually, because it's so complicated, people come up with this ERB thing, And ERB will return a string. Is that something I need you guys to keep remembering? And a lot of times we forget. It looks so magical. It's just a method that returns a string. But if you give it the argument, it's a string, it's going to return this argument. If you give it something like hello world and hello name like this, it's going to return that, but it will crash because there's no name variable. So then you're like, oh, so it means I can pass in a variable. Local name is like go to school, then this will work. I expect you to understand this. And at this point, if you don't, no worries. Go to IRB, you can ask, how do I test that in IRB? Oh, it's like I can paste this method. Actually, it requires it in a different helper library. And then you can have that ERB in here. You can run it. Then you're like, well, how does it work with the HTML file? So I expect you guys to know that you have to pass in a symbol. I'm going to introduce something new anyway. So for those who find that this is too basic, so we're almost there. Like this, I expect you to know where to find the files, right? But now I want to tell you guys that those who are confident with this can go one more step. You remember how any variable in this file, you have to put it in locals here, and you have to pass in a variable. And now these two things are not the same word, they're completely different, okay? This is the name of the variable you use in this file, and this is the name of the variable you have in this context. So maybe this not new over here, right? I really like this approach. You clearly tell the files what variable you use. You know why? Because it will crash if you don't give it the right thing. And if you refactor it to go to the list file, view, all you have to do is that over here, you copy this line over here and run it, and it will complain list variable doesn't exist. Oh, no problem, I create the list, so you copy over. So you can reuse your ERB very easily, right? Still, nothing new there, but the new thing is if you use instance variable, that's the difference. Then you don't need any of this. You can use the instance variable directly. Okay, so in app.rb here, if you want this to not look too long, it's up to you. Okay, so you can do this, except that the error message will be a little harder to read because now you go to index. Let's say in this case list, you have to change this to list. And of course the error will be what? If you forget to define this, you move it to a different file and you run this template, what's the error? Yeah, undefined.each or nil, and this will just be harder to see. Sometimes it's really hard to see because you may have a list that has some other item that is like invalid or nil. It's hard to see, but it's up to you. When you move to Rails, this is what happens. We'll use this a lot. But when you use a partial like this, you can also use variable, but I do not want anyone to just say, oh, I'm just gonna be like, let's name this item instance variable in here, prepare this, can't even type this word, and then set it to item, alright? So I don't have to parse this. And I will go into this file, index item, and I just use item, so there's no need to pass the variable. Once you see that more knowledge is dangerous because now your code is a mess. It's terrible, hard to debug. If the variable is missing, it's nil, you don't know where you forgot to set nil. Right? If you have a big file, you're like, how many instant variables do you need for that? And you actually have to open the file and then you count. 1, 2, 3. But if you use locals, like the way I did, I can always close my eye and say I use 0 instance variable and I only need 1 local variable, and my template is complete and it's reusable, right? So I do expect that full understanding of how the ERB thing, and I was just segue it into from now on in your code. You can start playing with this thing to keep your instance variable like this. When you see it, you can keep your code clean that way if you like, but stick with only 1 instance variable if you can, if not 2. So I actually drop a hint there in the type. I think that's, you guys see it, right? In this one, you guys can already see it. I did not pass it, and I use it in the title. Okay? In fact, you can use it in the layout too. See how an app you can have this all like get names of all files from. You see the thing at the top here? That is the title of this page, but it's also the title of this tab. That's because of the head, and it has to come from the layout. It's in this title thing in the head. So imagine, now I can go to the layout file. This one you do want instance variable. Something like if it exists, you can do like, if title exists, then you use it, or just the short version, title. Or if title doesn't exist, display the string. That's how you put the title into the string. Yeah? So as you do it, you may come up with a better approach to this app. But it's only possible if we do it in a one step at a time way. So I hope that it's really all about troubleshooting. So anything else that we want to cover besides this topic? What's other difficulty you guys have? Or any favorite things yesterday? My favorite thing is I saw that, like, I think your list looked really beautiful. I see, oh man, how do you do that triangular line? Yeah, I actually don't know. And then I would have to Google, how do you do that with CSS? I would just use an image and, be lazy with it. So that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, so the two completely different colors and they somehow meet in that line. Yeah, yeah,
So it's actually a rectangle and then
yeah,
the star, right?
right. I mean, it's cool experiments there, but you know specifically what you need, so you just play and then you only get that done. That, you know, so it's satisfying. Anything else from yesterday lab that feels any difficulty? All right, so we do it today. Ajax is the last part. So did you finish all of the? Wow. Okay. Can we? Suddenly we review a lot of back end stuff, but I'm going to start the lecture on front end stuff. Okay. So we'll take a break, 5 minutes.